Seapower describes a nation's ability to protect its political, economic, and military interests through its control of its seas.
Alfred Thayer Mahan, one of the greatest naval strategists in global history, believed that national greatness is inextricably associated with the sea, with its commercial use in peace and its control in war. After the Second World War, the Philippine Navy emerged from the ashes of war and became one of the strongest naval power in Asia, next to Japan, with most of its ex-US Navy assets turned over to the Philippine government. The Philippine Navy was the strongest among its Southeast Asian neighbors at the time. But because of fast developments steered by the use of new technologies, emerging constructs of maritime space and boundaries forwarded to the East, the complexity of the current geopolitical context, the role of globalization, and the advent of new dimensions of warfare, the concepts of naval operations, and the future of naval forces in the region and the whole world are constantly changing and being reshaped.
We are a maritime nation. The development and security of our people is essentially linked to our seas. Our seas are our medium of communications between our islands and the rest of the world.
The Philippine Navy is in the midst of landscape transitions as it embarked on a sail plan of developing sea power capable of protecting the country's national maritime interest and security. The Philippine Navy is a major branch of the armed forces of the Philippines, whose mandate is to protect the maritime domain of the state. It plays a huge role in protecting the Filipino people, exercising sovereignty over national territory, and protecting the state from both internal and external threats. Nation building is also one of the Navy's biggest roles. The aftermath of disasters and the other hostilities dislocated innocent civilians from their normal lives, thus hindering progress and peace. Our Philippine Navy helps communities to rise again on their feet by building schools, bridges, and other vital infrastructures in order to resume the normalcy of their lives. Our mission is to organize, train, equip, maintain, develop, and deploy forces for prompt and sustained naval and maritime operations to support the armed forces of the Philippines mission. The Navy has two type commands, the Philippine Fleet and the Philippine Marine Corps. It also has 7 naval operational commands tasked to protect and defend the country's maritime areas within each respective area of responsibility. These operational commands have capabilities for conducting territorial defense operations, internal security operations, and such other activities to support naval administration, logistics, service support, and community development in their areas of responsibility. The Navy also has 5 support commands and 8 support units. The Philippine Navy performs 3 roles: military, constabulary, and diplomatic. Its military role is defending the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the Philippines. This is sustained through fleet marine operations, employing the use of forces launched from and to the sea to enable application of military capabilities and sustained units in the sea. This role intends to maintain naval prominence within the country's maritime zones and to enforce claims in disputed territories and contested waters. The Philippine Navy constabulary role refers to preserving the internal peace and unity of the Philippine archipelago. It involves the employment of fleet marine forces in support to maritime law enforcement. It also calls for integration of readily deployable fleet and marine reserves to the regular organization and active collaboration with other government agencies such as the Philippine Coast Guard and non-government organizations to address a wide spectrum of challenges. The Navy's diplomatic role can be viewed in terms of the contribution of the Philippine Navy to regional peace and stability, as well as prevention of interstate conflicts. It entails the conduct of combined operations at sea or training and exercises with allied navies to accomplish bilateral or regional objectives and a wide range of military and non-military diplomatic activities. As part of our international diplomatic commitments, the Philippine Navy has liaison officers to the Combined Maritime Forces in Bahrain, Singapore's Information Fusion Center, and border crossing stations in Tarakan, Marore, and Miangas, all in Indonesia.
The Philippines is an archipelago composed of 80% water.
Geographically, it lies between insular Southeast Asia and Northeast Asia and links the whole of East Asia with the South Pacific.
We are surrounded by three prominent bodies of water: the Pacific Ocean in the east, the South China Sea in the west, and the Sulu-Celebes Seas in the south.
The country's location is a unique asset, giving it a geopolitical and economic leverage. The best east-west route from the South China Sea to the Pacific Ocean traverses the Philippine archipelago, together with 6 international trade routes which are vital in the global supply chain. Being at the apex of the Coral Triangle, the Philippines is part of the global center of marine biodiversity, providing a rich reserve of marine resources. The country's distinctive location also bears political, economic, diplomatic, and military significance. This gives us a strategic advantage of a central position and a good base for military operations, providing sufficient facility in the area of security concerns. The vastness of our maritime domain, which covers the subsea, sea, air, and the electromagnetic spectrum, poses complex and interconnected security concerns to the country. These include challenges to territorial integrity, maritime security, natural disasters, cybersecurity, and internal security. In Southeast Asia, the maritime and sovereignty issue in the South China Sea remains one of the major flashpoints of conflict. China's accelerated rise, which allowed it economic, political, and diplomatic influence in the region, has emboldened it to be more assertive in its maritime and territorial claims. Its fast-paced militarization of its occupied features, coercive maritime operation, and gray zone tactics in the South China Sea are continuously but gradually changing the status quo and challenging the peace and stability in Southeast Asia. It is also contributory to the US-China major power rivalry in the region, which is even exacerbated by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic.
The Active Archipelagic Defense Strategy, or the AADS, is the Philippine Navy's operational strategy, guided by national laws, strategies, and policies.
It supports the National Military Strategy and the AFP Joint Operating Concept as the maritime component of the joint force by describing the ways in employing naval power. Thus, the AADS specifies how the Philippine Navy operates. The AADS is founded on three mutually supporting strategic approaches, which reflect the military, constabulary, and diplomatic roles that the Navy performs across its defense mission areas. These approaches are maritime operations, maritime situational awareness, and maritime cooperation. They serve as a guide to the Navy in accomplishing its primary mandate while performing its supporting functions. Maritime operations involve the entire range of operations in the maritime domain, which the Philippine Navy conducts from peace to war through a tiered and calibrated response, and consists of activities such as, but are not limited to, naval operations, amphibious operations, support to maritime law enforcement, HADR, search and rescue, support to other agencies. It includes the showing of flag and port visits as part of shaping operations. These are conducted either in a joint, interagency, or combined environment. Maritime situational awareness is the comprehensive knowledge obtained from all source information systems, continuous and integrated data collection, and information exchanges related to maritime domain and other allied operating domains to support decision-making. Maritime cooperation pertains to the conduct of the Philippine Navy's purposive engagements with its partners in the domestic and international levels for collaborative security, peacekeeping, and international relations. It serves as a support and force multiplier, leverage against essential capacity and capability gaps in the performance of the Navy's roles. Domestically, this involves engagement with other branches of service, government agencies, and other stakeholders and partners in contribution to the whole-of-nation approach for national defense and security. Internationally, this involves naval diplomacy with other foreign navies and multilateral platforms to ultimately create a collective security regime and establish and maintain partnerships with other foreign institutions. In terms of operations, maritime cooperation also facilitates the conduct of naval operations in a joint, interagency, and combined environment in order to achieve shared or common objectives. All this provide and strengthen the Philippine Navy through capacity and capability building, technical or logistical support, and information sharing derived from collaborative assessment, joint research, and personal exchanges. Further, these are pursued to ensure peace and stability in the maritime domain through the collective resolution of transnational maritime security concerns and fostering of fruitful partnerships.
The Philippine Navy, through its fleet marine forces, must develop as an effective instrument of national power, capable of upholding national interests, and serve as a partner for national development. We are presently building an optimal force mix of surface, subsurface, amphibious, and the air assets that is capable of meeting a hostile force from a distance farther from our shores.
Surface combatants, submarines, and amphibious forces will provide the core of this capability. Hence, we are developing a Navy that is joint and integrated, networked and agile, adaptive and multi-mission capable, and resilient against challenges to maintain continuity in executing its mandate. Along this line, the Philippine Navy has embarked on another 15-year capability development plan in three horizons: 2013 to 2017, 2018 to 2022, and 2023 to 2027. To support its operating concept, the Navy's Capability Development Plan calls for the development of capabilities in naval defense and security, archipelagic maneuver, defensive force projection, information warfare, and support and sustainment. Sir Walter Raleigh said that whoever commands the sea commands the trade. Whosoever commands the trade of the world commands the riches of the world, and consequently, the world itself. Universally, it has been said that he who commands the sea commands the riches of the world. Sea power is both an input and an output for national policy. The Navy, maritime law enforcement agencies, the civil maritime industries, and where relevant, the contribution of land and air forces are all inputs to sea power. Meanwhile, the capacity to influence the behavior of other people, things, nations, by what one does at or from the sea, or simply the sea-based capacity to determine events both at sea and on land, is sea power as an output. Our ability to protect our seas and take advantage of the endowments of our geography as an archipelagic country define our capability to promote national security. In the coming decades, the maritime domain will more likely be a theater for a contest between control and governance. Those who have the real capabilities to use force to govern the sea can and will use them to exercise power to secure their national and global interest, increase status in the international community, and gain reputation as maritime powers. Having a firm perspective of our maritime character as a nation, our Philippine Navy is prepared and continues to increase its warfighting readiness to address the complex security challenges at sea.
With such an extensive and complex maritime regime, the importance of a strong and credible Philippine Navy to guard the Philippine seas is a national security imperative.